Promo Wrestling Pod, episode number 6, continuing to trudge along. We don't have a theme song yet. If you know of a theme, someone who can compose
I already
themes.
told you what it should be.
What? Well, what is it? I can't remember.
All-Star, Smash Mouth.
We're not doing that. 1, Cowbell will have a heart attack. 2, I can't afford to pay the rights to Smash Mouth for that song, so screw them. Because they're a bunch of when you get out of Hollywood and you start losing money, you start charging stupid things.
There is technically a loophole in every copyright law. Okay. You just gotta know it.
Maybe that's the problem. You just gotta know it. That's like saying, oh, you just gotta know Chinese.
As
learn
long
it tomorrow.
as you don't claim the song to be yours, there's nothing they can legally do.
Well, I think there is something they can do. You know what?
No. As long as you give them all rights to the song, saying this song is owned by Smash Mouth, they cannot do anything to us.
I'm sorry.
Because it's a non-profit, because we're not making profit off of the song.
To everyone.
So there's nothing they can do to us.
To everyone who came into this Promo Wrestling Pod looking for, promo wrestling interviews and are now being subjected to copyright law. We're trying. And you know what? I haven't even brought up the fact that the co-host, as always, Matthew Mullins, you're not even using a title. Where's your belt? You've had a belt for every episode. What's going on?
I mean, like I said, there's always one right next to me, matter of fact.
So it was all a ruse.
Not really. I wasn't planning on showing it, but you mentioned it.
Well, I mentioned that you didn't have one, and then you just grabbed them. So now I'm picturing like your futon bed, which I'm assuming that might be what you sleep on. I don't know. Then whatever you're sitting on, and there's just wrestling belts, and you just sleep in wrestling belts and cane masks and handcuffs and sledgehammers.
No.
That's the Punisher lifestyle.
No.
Well, it might be. What are you telling women when they're coming over? Are you just like, ignore that? That's another life. That's not me. Mullins, be honest. If you ever got intimate with a woman in the upcoming future here, let's say in the next few weeks, would you wear a cane mask?
Absolutely not.
Well, I think you should.
I don't even have that mask anymore. I threw it away a long time ago.
Oh, well, you're going to have to find some other sort of mask, and you can woo the ladies with your half-red.
I do got my Punisher mask around here somewhere.
There we go. Well, picture that in your head and try to sleep tonight with the thought of Mullins in a Punisher mask getting intimate with the ladies.
What is wrong with you?
If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what the hell that would scare you. It'd scare you to fucking fly to Uranus. I don't know, but it's whatever. If it doesn't, if that little sentence that I said there sounds good to you, get help. Anyways, we're here to discuss promo wrestling, and episode 6, we can continue to roll on with the guests. And today we have another big one, another guest who's played a very fundamental role in that modern day wing of promo wrestling that we've been talking about. Someone who, when you think of active and sort of well-rounded, Michael Glasenapp. This is who we're interviewing today. And like I said, Michael, I got to call you one of the most well-rounded people in the business. Similar to Ryan Steinberg, for example, Matt Minnick, you are someone who can kind of do both ends, both roles. Operate something, get something started off the ground, but you're also a pretty damn great competitor. So tell us. Someone who's this well-rounded, you got the background, you got the theory behind it, but you've got the action. How does someone like you, how do you get involved in promo wrestling? What intrigued you to it? What drew you to it? How did you come into this?
Let's see, it was about a couple months after I got home from boot camp. I had been away from Facebook for a few months, and when I came back, I started to get back into watching wrestling again after a couple years. And so I just typed in my phone, wrestling, and a group called the Radical Roundtable came up. Actually, no, it was a Wrestle Chat. It took on a few different names after that. And then one of the guys that was an admin on there, he took his group of admins and went over to another group and took that over and named it the Radical Roundtable. I almost started to do CPW because I just saw like, oh, CPW, I've never heard of this group before. And then actually I saw a man by the name Thomas Austin.
Oh,
I didn't know what he was doing, to be quite frank with you. I'm like, why is this man just sitting in front of a camera yelling? Like, what's going on? And then I just started to scroll through the page, and then I see a Triple M come across because one of the first videos I ever saw was the dining with Triple M. And I'm like, what are these people doing? Well, I didn't know.
This is part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, because you didn't have the regular sort of fall in where we've talked about, where, you know, it's sort of the typical, there was the indie no DQ side and other sides. You searched up wrestling, found these groups. Like you said, you come across a Thomas Austin promo and a Triple M promo. I could only imagine what's going through your head at that point. So what made you decide that we weren't all just a bunch of crazy lunatics that should be, you know, cops should be called and alert the authorities to this group? What made you go, no, I need to be in this?
Let's see. After I basically strayed away from CPWs, I thought you were all a bunch of crazy people. I found the Radical Roundtable group through, I think it was through the CPW page, or it was through the Extreme Wrestle Chat group. I'm not sure. And then when I got into the Radical Roundtable group, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, Rich Diaz. He goes by the Morgue Man. But, you know, the radical type group, I know people don't agree with how they do their promos, but that's actually how I got into it. I just started putting a camera in front of my face, answering a question wrestling-wise that an admin would ask of that group. And then the more that I started to get in front of a camera, get comfortable, they started to actually start doing promos.
Okay.
And so I'm like, I went scrounging through my boxes because I had just moved into a new house, and I found, let's see if I can find, no, it's not in here. But it was actually that bright reflective mask. And I'm like, this will be kind of cool. Why don't I try making a character out of this? Did one promo match against one guy, I got butthurt, made a huge storm out of it, and then I got kicked out of the group. And then come to find out that then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a promo group bigger and better than the Radical Roundtable. And then I decided to open up UPW. I had stayed in touch with a few of the Radical people, and one of those guys actually brought in a bunch of like I would call them undercard at the time, like Lorraine Carter, another guy by the name of Devin Washington.
Okay. Yeah.
Josh Stevenson and Zach Rainwater and a few of those guys. They came over to basically to get a new start because we were all still freshly new. We all sucked. So, you know, we thought we were good, but we weren't good enough at that level yet. And so we basically had our own place to promo.
And so when you come over from that, like you said, it was sort of this new age, you're trying to figure it out. You said that it sucked, or when you're getting it started, but talk us through that. Did you feel like you had your own place to promo, but did you feel like you had the momentum there? Like, here we go, I want to create my own group? Or was the early days kind of like, what are we doing? Like, how was that?
At the time, like I had a really good structure at the time. Because in between leaving the Radical Roundtable and opening up UPW, I actually was in the talks with another head admin of another wrestling group, and we started to do promos there. I wasn't getting the creative leniency that I wanted. And so then I just took and said, hey, we're just going to do promos over here and let this group be just wrestling group. And so, so we kind of had basically that wrestling group was a test starter. And once we got into the UPW group, then we started to get things rolling. And let's see, Lorraine Carter, he was our first world champion. Took the title back to the round table and threw it in the trash. The typical heel move.
Mm-hmm.
And then several of the Radical people left, and then we just went into that previous wrestling group, and we got a lot of people to come out of there just to keep things going. And then a guy by the name of Colt Alexander. When I talk about the early stages of UPW, a lot of people know what I'm talking about who were there, but I assume you guys don't know him. He went by I think his name was Crimson or Crimson something.
Yeah, UPW, I remember, like, obviously, because you guys had started from sort of that different branch. You'd come down. You weren't, essentially, to put it this in a cleaner way, you weren't necessarily a spawn of IPW, right? You had come down from a different branch.
Right.
But Lorraine Carter, and I've been talking about him on this show. I think a lot of people have been talking about him. This guy is super talented.
He is.
And it's amazing to know that that's where you got your start. So right away, and he's turned into one of the most talented guys doing this today. So right away to start to have someone like that, I mean, that's awesome. And just out of curiosity, before you continue with that, what year are we, like, what's the time zone we're talking about here with the formation of UPW when you create that initial group?
We created the group initially on June 15th, 2016. So almost a year ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, it seems longer to me. But
it does.
I guess UPW has been there's been lots of activity with it. It's changed, it's morphed, it's formed. But so there you go. You started out, like you said, it's starting to blossom. Things are starting to form. Carry on.
So with this guy by the name of Colt Alexander, he started to get into more EFEDs than I did, because for me, I just wanted to stay in UPW. I wanted to try to grow it, make it bigger. And so I have to give a lot of credit to him. If it weren't for him going to different EFEDs like KPW, at the time it was KPW, now it's WKP, FPW, Man Monsters group, he actually took some talent from there, and he basically said, hey, come give us a shot. Some people came over. Some stayed, some left, typical when you get added to an EFED group without your permission.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he started to book matches because he was like our first original booker. And, then he brought in John Walton.
Mullen's favorite.
No, he's not.
Let's see. And then when John Walton actually came in, this was the time like Lorraine Carter had left to go back to the Radical group because they were fixing up to do like this huge card. So he didn't want to be bothered by the UPW group. And so when he started to come back in, he started calling himself the franchise of UPW because essentially UPW is the house Lorraine Carter built. Lorraine's been with us basically since day one. And like, if it weren't for people just staying loyal, staying faithful, keeping the cause going, I guarantee you when around the fourth month or so, things would have died off. And it just would have sizzled out and UPW wouldn't be here. But thankfully, John Walton did come in. And when Lorraine started calling him the franchise of UPW, John Walton's like, you're not the franchise. And so he got in contact with Matt Minnick.
Oh, there we go.
And brought in Matt Minnick. And of course, and I think that was the first time Matt stepped foot in an EFED in like months, maybe a year. I don't know how long he took his break for. And when he came in, basically he started talking to like a lot of his E-Fed buddies, like, hey, come over and check this place out, because it's like I'm not trying to put word in his mouth, but I assume he said something on the lines of, hey, there's young talent, there's people here that we've never seen or heard of before, people we've never faced. And so I think at the time that's what made UPW so different, because nobody from other E-Feds were in that group.
That's very true. I can't remember the exact time when I had been added or got a first look at the roster, but it was around the same time I first heard of Lorraine Carter, which probably would have been, last summer. It was after the Minnick thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it was extraordinarily unique. I mean, there was a lot. That's one of the best things about finding a Fed that's kind of off the mainstream, is that, we like to say, oh, these are the main Feds, but there's some really good talent, and it might just not be in that cluster. And like you said, like Lorraine Carter, this is a guy who might have not have been, things might have not have came into existence
Right.
if John Walton doesn't come back there and showcase.
Mm-hmm.
Mullins, do you remember the first time you seen UPW? Was it, did you?
No, I do remember Michael messaging me once during the early days of UPW asking me to join, but I declined because at the time I was in too many E-Feds.
What's changed?
But I think I did eventually join. I eventually joined, and I had like a few matches here and there, but nothing really major.
But did you
until
think
after like Minnick took over?
So let's carry on there then. We know it's unique. We know it's kicking off. You were might have been a little weary at the start, but then okay, things are carrying on.
Right.
Where do we go from there?
Let's see. When Matt came in, I think that's when he started to bring Chelsea into the promo game. And so I don't remember what group it was in, but I remember seeing him and Chelsea do this live video in another E-Fed. And I'm like, hey Matt, could you do that over here? And after he started doing that, then like Nick Harrison started to promo there. I want to say he brought in Paul Biello. I'm not sure I can't remember at the moment, but more of those big names like Nick Harrison, like everybody else, they started to come in, and UPW went from having maybe 20 competitors up to 60 or 70, all within like a month. And I don't know if it's because I got burned out at the time, or if I just didn't know how to handle that kind of success. And so I started talking with Matt a lot. He's like, hey, get in contact with Shanti Kurtz about TOPW. And then he was doing like this War of the E-Feds, I think, at the time. And so I actually signed, 4 of our guys actually signed up for it. And we went against TOPW, I do believe. And our guys beat their guys from that little night of matches.
And so we see you got Minnick massive to the helping development, and good eye on you to recognize that, because like we talked about in the Minnick's podcast, that live with the Minnicks is, it's still, they just drew big.
It's something special, man. Like,
and so credit to you.
You can't replicate that. You can't replicate the chemistry Matt and Chelsea have.
Yeah, and it's such a unique situation. People like engaging with it. Like, kudos for you for seeing that and then saying, hey, come in. And so I'm assuming this is when you and Minnick, during this whole time, he's come back, you ask him to do that. I'm assuming this is when that connection with you and Minnick really starts to form. Like you said, you're talking with him all the time. This is when that friendship starts to form, and you have the UPW, they face off, beat TOPW. In terms of like new Fed compared to something like TOPW, which was for a long time looked at one of the premier E-Feds, like that must have been, you must have felt really good about yourself, and you must have felt, at least the Fed, I should say, and you must have felt good about your relationship with Minnick that this was kind of leading to it.
Yeah, he was a good, he wasn't an Adam at the time, but because of his experience, I guess it just it showed my maturity, because I looked at Matt as being the wiser. He might not be that much older than I am, but the older guy, and so he and I just blossomed a relationship from that. And at the time I had started after that War of the E-Feds, I guess, I started to get more active into TOPW. It was around that time that I started to get more active in other feds, from Terry Aikman's EWU when it was open, TOPW, KPW. And those were mainly my 3 feds at the time, and I always give credit to those 3 feds, because if it weren't for them, I would not have gotten the chance or the opportunity or the career launcher that I really had.
And so let's talk about that, because you start competing more, you start defining who you are as a competitor, which is something like you'd said earlier. We all suck at the beginning, but then we kind of start to form, we start to morph, we sort of develop. Talk about that a little bit as a competitor. What did you start to notice was working? What wasn't working? How did you start to form into the competitor that, has gone on to have some good success?
I would say the best character that you can ever make is yourself. I had tried a couple characters before that, especially in the early days of UPW, over in the Radical Roundtable. They just weren't cutting it for me, because those characters just weren't me. Even in KPW, Sonny Lucas had started a faction. It was my first ever faction, so it's a big deal for me to get asked, for someone to ask me to join their faction. And then he started to talk to Matt Minnick, Triple M, Lorraine Carter. I think Reckless was brought in. And so I would say that was basically when Triple M, Lorraine Carter, Matt Minnick, and that was really when we started to just form that brotherhood together.
And they start giving you, I'm assuming,
a lot of help.
A lot of help.
Right.
And so then how did you take that? How did you take it and run with it from that sort of brotherhood, from that advice?
When, as I started to get more experienced, I adopted the name Mike Valentine, because Valentine's Day is my birthday. And so, I'm like, hey, Valentine would be a cool last name for my character. And basically, Matt just told me, just be yourself. I give a lot of credit to Matt for helping me grow my Valentine character. And then while we were in the EWU, we had this huge storyline go on where I was supposed to face Grim, which was my breaking through the glass ceiling moment, because I beat Grim the Clown, even though I had never seen Grim the Clown before in my life.
That's crazy.
All that I knew, he was some psychotic clown over in this place called the Dark Carnival, and we were supposed to have a Dark Carnival match. and so I'm like, okay, I'll just pretend I got lost in the Suicide Forest. And after that storyline, I'm like, and Triple M and Grim actually brought this up to me, like, hey, what if we brought Mike Valentine in as the bastard son of Triple M? And then Double M started to become a thing after that, Michael Marauder.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay. At the early stages of Double M were slightly good, slightly bad. Sometimes I slipped into like a Tickle Me Elmo voice. They gave me so much crap for that.
Jeez. Well, you always have to have those moments. You always have to have those steps.
Right. And then, let's see. And as that storyline progressed, they decided to bring me as part of the Dark Carnival faction group.
And so now Dark Carnival, for those that don't know, this is one of the most unique stables in promo wrestling
Mhm.
Yep.
history. Uh,
Probably the most
Probably
original as well.
and probably one of the biggest too, because there are still a lot of people in the Dark Carnival that people don't remember or don't know of.
and big and like Mullins, talk about like what are your thoughts on Dark Carnival?
I think it was great because it was original. It hasn't been done any. Pretty much, it was the most original faction that's been done in the Fed world. I mean, the way they've kept it fresh, it has never gone stale, and I don't see it going stale.
It is one of I remember my first encounter with the Dark Carnival because you don't forget those types of things, and just the eerie, creepy videos. There's been a
Exactly.
few who are good, but man, that bone chilling stuff that's the best way to describe it, and that's another reinforcement that promo wrestling can go beyond just yipping and yapping. It can hit you right in the heart. So you joined Dark Carnival.
Right.
Talk us through that.
When I got into the Dark Carnival, it was basically just like another Matt Minnick, Lorraine Carter, and Triple M type of group. I made so many good relationships with John Weisgrim, the Clown, and Terry Aikman. Let's see. Yeah, those, and I'm gonna say this, like, with things happen with Reckless to where I think he kind of like just dipped off the EFED scene.
I haven't seen him.
Right. And so
Does anyone know? I don't know.
no.
He briefly came back. He posted like one or two videos and then gone again.
Oh, and also another breakthrough moment for me was beating Reckless in EWU. You know, that was another big moment for me because that was when I was starting to get into the Double M character. And when you don't overthink it, you it's gonna be a good it's gonna be a good character for you. Because
Talk about.
I didn't
Oh,
really
carry
care
on.
about what people thought of me. Whenever I do my Double M character, I don't give a crap what people think. You know, I'm portraying a character, so I'm gonna try to be as big, as vivacious as I can.
That's what you have to be. You have to have that boat, like you said, that big personality. Those are always the best characters in wrestling. Anything are the people who project themselves onto you, and you don't get that if you're going to be sheltered and quiet. And like you said, you have to just let your inhibitions go. People don't need to be talking. I don't care what they're talking or what they would think about me. I'm just doing it for me, and that's the best way to grow. You beat Reckless. That's a big name in the promo wrestling world. Big wins produce big success, produces big momentum, and makes big changes in how you perceive yourself as a competitor. Like you said, you start to get there. Continue to go carry on with the character, this Double M development.
Let's see. After EWU officially closed down, this was around the time that I think I was handing control over to Matt Minnick for UPW because I had just started a fresh job at the time. I was completely off. I was starting to lose my drive to carry on UPW. And so I had been thinking about it for a couple weeks before that. And I'm thinking, my thought process was basically this: hey, who's who's a good person that could probably take this group over for me? Um, I was moving from one house to a new house, and so I had no internet for like a week and a half. And so at the time, Lorraine Carter was the co-owner, the like vice president of the group. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to be away like off of Facebook for like a week or so. Could you run the group? He's like, yeah. After a week or so, he told me, hey, I don't think I can run. I don't want to run the group anymore. And so I'm like, okay, so Lorraine's not as a question now. And so after building my relationship with Matt, after seeing all the experience that he has, after the knowledge that I gained from him, I'm like, okay, Matt Minnick's probably the right guy to hand this off to. And so one day I messaged him, hey Matt, have you ever thought about taking over UPW? He straight up told me no. I'm like, okay. And then a few days later, he's like, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'll go ahead and take over the group. Because like I said, I was so busy, I just got burned out on running UPW and just almost on life in general, just because I had so much going on.
Promo wrestling can do that.
Right, because I didn't think it would be fair to the admins or to the talent if I was just a figurehead and nothing was coming from me.
So when you make that decision, and I mean, and I was just wondering this today with Shanty and TOPW and handing it to Minnick. When you make a decision like that, you've watched it grow, you watch it take its steps, you watch competitors come in and form themselves under the UPW banner, and you see these strides.
Mm-hmm.
So when you make a decision like that, like is it extremely difficult? Like, I know you probably weren't faced with much of a choice, but what does it feel like when you hand off something like that? It's almost like
man, I definitely missed it the first probably month. You know, I did watch Matt's podcast when he was on here. He's right. When you hand over something, like when a CEO or an owner of an organization hands control off, basically sells the company to somebody new, you expect the previous owner not to butt in on stuff. And let's just say I was a real pain in the butt to Matt Minnick for a solid few weeks. Just because I felt very regretful of doing it, because the more that I got accustomed to my work schedule and things started to get quiet in my life, then I was starting to miss it a lot. And then many people don't know this, or many people do, but they just probably don't remember this. This was around the time of the election. And so I think this was like a few days after President Trump got elected. And so I basically just stated my opinion on outside of an EFED group. And, you know, I'm like, hey, you know, I don't think this is right. And here's my explanation for it. And I got the Cybele treatment, basically. I'm pretty sure Brett remembers this.
Yeah, that was an interesting time.
Right.
So, you get that it's not a great feeling.
No, not at all.
Tell us more about it.
But at the same time, I kind of looked at it. This is when, and then Matt took the UPW group, opened up his own UPW group, and when he took the group, I'm like, I started to be a straight douchebag, straight up, because I still had control over the original UPW page, because the creator of a group, they can't be banned, they can't be kicked out. And so after he did that, I'm like, okay, I'll just follow them over there. Matt banned me. Because it wasn't just what I said. It was just a buildup of me constantly being in his ear, typing something, saying I didn't agree with something, instead of just going straight to Matt, be like, hey, I don't agree with this. And because I made it too public that I didn't agree with something, and so he didn't like it. And so I guess he didn't want that in the new UPW group.
Mullins, do you remember this time at all?
No, I think at the time that Minnick created the new group, I think I was pretty much gone from eFeds for pretty much.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
from August.
I remember you doing a little sabbatical on us.
Yeah, from August to January, I was gone from eFeds, from majority eFeds.
So you don't really remember that. So but I certainly do. I remember, and Minnick talked about it as well. And so you said it was the first few weeks, and this is going on, this sort of battle, and it's kind of hard to fall. Like now you can look back on it, but you know, you see this part of you kind of carrying on, getting adjusted. You said you're voicing it too public. How did you come to start to recognize that was the situation and that, you know, that couldn't continue?
I had to just realize, hey, I gave the group up. You know, it's not my group anymore. It's my decision, and I have to live with it. And at the time that I said what I said, like Lorraine Carter and I, we had just won the first ever TOPW Tag Team Championships, and his and my relationship actually hit the rocks a lot. Mine and Carl Cole's relationship hit the rocks. I was basically an outcast of all the people that I was basically family with for UPW. I got the full on Cybele treatment. Like many people don't know this, but at the time I held the tag team gauntlets or tag team titans or whatever Shanti wants to call those things. The Spartan Titan and TOPW, and Shanti actually put me in a match against Ethan Carnage, Jason Sanders, and Shanti actually put the championship on Jason because of what I said.
Really?
Really?
How did you find out about that? Was that
Jason told me? Matt told me.
Wow.
Because like I might get in trouble for this, but it's out there now. But Matt actually told me in a private message, like this was a few months later. Hey, he straight up told me, hey, Shanti came to me and said, hey, I want to take the Spartan championship off of Michael Glasenapp. And Matt said, why? Because of what he did. And Matt said, because that doesn't concern you. It's not your business. And basically, Shanti kind of hopped on the bandwagon, if per se. And so when that happened, I kind of embraced almost being a heel in TOPW because I knew I could probably get away with saying some stuff, and I really didn't have a filter. I called Matt Minnick a cult leader. I called Lorraine, Carl, all of Matt's friends, everybody that basically turned their backs on me at the time. I basically called them all sheep in Matt Minnick's religion. Yeah.
Oh man. So
like, I was gonna go out the bang, man.
Well, you have this situation. You get the Titan stripped off you pretty much.
Pretty much.
And so you just said, screw it. Now that's an interesting way to do it. To just be like, you know what, I'm going to fuel this right into the Fed. And to go after Minnick and those guys, you're not going after, I don't know, a nobody. That's for damn sure. So
right.
How does that blossom from there?
I always tell people, hey, I have balls of steel. I have no shame. I'll say it. I'll do whatever I want to do, almost type of mentality. You know, just I won't do anything that's illegal that I could get caught with and go to prison. So basically, I look at promo wrestling as almost as that escape a little bit. When I took all that anger and frustration and hurt and I put it into a promo the way that I did, I honestly felt better after that because it allowed me to get all that emotion out.
Well, that's sometimes the best way to do it. As we talk about this as being a release from real life and escape,
right.
But sometimes you can take those real emotions and just spit them out and just bam, and that's where the best work comes from because there's no doubt about it, it's inspired. So you must have felt like when you did that, even though it was real emotions involved, you must have felt like you took a big step in terms of how you portrayed yourself in the promo wrestling community.
I do, because after that moment, like, it kind of, like, I went through a stage for a couple months where I didn't trust anybody in promo wrestling. After I did that shoot promo in TOPW, because I knew everybody was going to see it, I went to bed. Next morning, I wake up and I'm banned from TOPW too. And so after a little conversation with Shanti, or no, it was Wally Taylor at the time. I'm like, hey, I got kicked out of TOPW. Can you let me back in? And he's like, yeah, I don't know. And he asked his admin team who did it, and nobody would own up to it.
Mullins, were you on that admin team at the time? Who?
I don't think I was. I wasn't even an admin at the time. I think I was just a referee at that time.
Oh, I was gonna say, if you were you the one? But you'll escape for this time. So carry on then.
Let's see, and then a few weeks later, I started to, after the feelings had subsided, after the tension was kind of gone, I started to reach out to Triple M, Lorraine Carter, Carl Coles, all the people that I was really close to. I started to reach out to them. Took them a few weeks after that to open back up to me, but that relationship was kind of restored, and it felt nice to me. Matt and I started to talk, and he said, "Hey, why don't you?" Actually, no, I was actually talking to Chelsea. My bad. And she's like, "Hey, these are the guidelines for if I can add you back into UPW. Don't voice your opinion about what Matt's doing or what this new era of UPW is. Don't do any of that, because I will ban you. I will kick you out again." So I'm like, okay. And then I started to cut promos in UPW again. This is when I started to bring out the Double M character again. Did away with the Mike Valentine gimmick. I won my first few matches, and then I want to say this was around the beginning of the year.
Okay.
And then Matt and UPW had grown so much that they were able to add on a third show compared to just the first two.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lorraine actually became the GM of that third show. And with him doing that, he actually brought in the Radical guys that I had started out with.
Wow.
And so, immediately one of them won the TV title. Two of them won the tag team championships right off the bat. And so, like I always tell people, the Radical people, you may not agree with what they say or how they do their promos, but they're good at what they do.
Well, and that must have been so unique and such a cool feeling to be like, okay, you had this tumultuous time, blacklisted, but now you come back in, and not only are you back in, not only is Lorraine Carter there, but you have that beginning group come back in, like you said, and they're starting to see success. Like, that must have helped build that sort of redeeming feeling back, and that sort of wholeness back. Like you said, it felt good to be back. That must have just made it even better.
Right. And then, like, a few months after it was like a month or two after they first got into UPW and they made such an impact, they basically they didn't agree with Chelsea Minnick. They just flat out didn't like her. And so what they did, they took the tag team championships. They took the TV title.
Jeez.
And they basically left the group. They started, at the time, I still had control of the old UPW group. And so they just started to post a ton of stuff in there. They took Chelsea's face, put it on a body of Adolf Hitler.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the Radical guys, they have true balls of steel. They really don't care. because they're more like that X-rated type of group.
Yeah.
And so, I had put a little laughing emoji on that meme because to me at the time, it felt like a harmless meme. I didn't take into consideration how Chelsea, how Matt would feel about it.
Yeah.
And so when that happened, it was almost like it was right before I basically got blacklisted again from UPW.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Matt, Lorraine, and Trips, Carl, and we all shared a group messenger chat.
Mm-hmm.
And, and at the time I was trying to, after all that drama had passed about Chelsea and whatnot, I was starting to have some health problems.
Okay.
And so I basically had to say, hey, I got to get out of promo. I can't do promos for a few weeks and for about a month or two. And when that happened, I contacted Matt because when Lorraine had started to boost promos up again in the Radical Roundtable, Chelsea kind of made a big deal out of it. And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to be smart here. I'm going to actually contact Matt and let him know what my intentions are because I don't want the same thing to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, hey, Matt, I got to take a break from promos for I don't know how long. My plan is to take UPW, the old UPW group, and to basically rebrand it into another promo fed.
Okay.
Because I don't want what happened to Carter to happen to me. And he said, okay, it's no big deal. And so if we called it a Global Promo Federation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll try to get away from like the PW of how most feds are nowadays.
Yeah.
And so we called it, the initials were GPF, because just to be different, just to try to set ourselves aside from other people. And, we started to have our own matches. We got enough people to have a World Heavyweight Championship tournament and a CZW like Tournament of Death tournament.
Okay.
To crown a deathmatch champion. And so after we started to do that, after everything finished, Lorraine is like, okay, GPF is dying out a little bit. Our Radical promo group is dying out a little bit. Why don't we try to merge our brands together? And me being the more wise person that I was basically a year ago, I said, hey, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took another wrestling / promo group and we basically combined ourselves and became Extreme Radical Promo Federation.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so when you start that out, then you're coming through, like you had talked about, you came back in, it was feeling good. Then we get kind of the controversy again.
Right.
So we're getting the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, where it's still, I guess the best way to describe it would be tumultuous during that time period. But now you're forging a group again here with Carter. So is this another, we're kind of coming up again? Like,
I would say so, because like even this was like a month or two ago because Matt kind of kicked me out of UPW for a good while because of basically he did tell me that he did somewhat overreact to me putting that laughing emoji onto the meme of Chelsea. I'll say it in public. Hey, it wasn't cool of me. I didn't think it was anything was wrong about it. I thought it was just a harmless meme. But because in the early stages of UPW, we would take screenshots of people's promos and we would make memes out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we thought it was funny. And so, I kind of thought oh, it's almost like the same thing, but it wasn't the same thing because they had gone onto her personal profile, grabbed a picture, and did it that way. So it wasn't a right reaction from me.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, at any time you're kind of, and this is probably one of the biggest things that carries on, one of the biggest controversies we see every day in promo wrestling is where is the line?
Right.
Where is that line? If we get into Hitler stuff, and some people, some of the memes some people do post, it's of it like let's say a dead body or something, which some do. And so again, it's always or going to someone's profile and pulling a picture that they meant to share with their family, not necessarily that especially. And so you have those. Where is that line? I guess you kind of figured out. I mean, that's a crash course way to learn, but.
And I guess it's basically it depends on just using your own judgment when it comes to this thing of E-Fed wrestling. You gotta basically say, hey, if I were in this person's shoes, how would they react to it?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I kind of was taken out of UPW for a while. I wasn't too happy about it, and so Matt and I actually had a really, really big falling out. We didn't talk to each other for a few months. When I found out he took over TOPW, that did it over for me. At the time, I was super angry about it because TOPW is one of the places that launched my career. It gave me that. It allowed me to stand in the limelight for almost a full year.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I wasn't seeing eye to eye with him. I didn't want anything to do with Matt. And so I'm like, and I basically just put in a comment, hey, I'm still getting my TOPW Hall of Fame, right? I was trying to be as blunt and as douchey as possible because I did not support it whatsoever. I put in our ERPF OOC chat, screw Matt Minnick, don't want anything to do with him. Just get him out of my life. I did not like that, hearing about that. Mainly because Shanti kind of kept it behind closed doors, because Shanti kept it kind of almost like a secret. I don't know if Matthew knew about it.
No, it was like we didn't find out anything until
he went live. Oh yeah.
Under the Oliver Queen's account, we didn't know anything about it. We were kept in the dark and everything. And so, that's what kind of pissed me off a little bit.
And so
it was more like a shock value, where at the time with me and him having so much beef and so much tension, I was going to be one of the first persons picketing at the front of the line at the doors of TOPW. And and then actually this is where I give Matt credit. This is where I'm like, hey, you know what? Matt is still a good guy. He was the first one to reach out to me and contact me. And because, I look at him as being the bigger man in that case scenario. Because I wasn't going to reach out to him. I wasn't going to try to text him or message him at all. And when he wanted to talk me through the idea, he had called me up through Facebook Messenger. I stared at the phone for a good few seconds. I'm like, should I answer this or should I not answer this? And so I'm like, why bother? So I picked it up, and then he explained me through what he wants to do with TOPW, how it could benefit my new Fed group that's opening up. And so with that happening, it, basically kind of got us on another start course to kind
Okay.
of rebuild that relationship. And then about a few weeks later, we Matt had actually, I'm sorry, excuse me 1 second, fellas. I'm sorry. This is very unprofessional.
Hey, that's fine. Mullins, please sing us a song while Michael is away.
No.
Sing a song! Mullins, sing. Here, let's do a duet. Ebony.
No.
Ebony.
Well, hold on.
Ebony. Ivory. Living in perfect. Which one of us is. Well, Mullins, I don't know what the answer to that one is, but we'll
I
figure it out.
apologize about that, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, God, Mullins, stop it.
Mullins, are you watching porn?
Yeah, Mullins that's what we were discussing, the merits of that. So carry on.
And then actually a couple weeks ago, I think things have started to subside. I started to just let things go between what happened between me and Matt. And when I saw he added me to a Facebook chat with the same 4 or 5 people, Triple M, Lorraine Carter, Carl Coles, and Jason Sanders, actually. I'm like, okay. And so we talked on the phone for like an hour or two. And, I guess it's where the male complex comes to fruition. We can fight with somebody like a couple months ago, and we could be right back to being best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so with all that happening, we're back on a high again, and hopefully things don't just fall out again, because I would really hate for that to happen.
And so that takes us to the current day, and like you said, it seems like throughout the process of your career, with the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and you've been very honest on this podcast that you look back and you learn some things and you realize, okay, we could have avoided this conflict with just simply reaching out here or
Right.
simply doing that. And it's easy to dismiss promo wrestling as a hobby where you won't learn lessons, but
No, you learn a lot of life lessons. You learn how to deal with people. Because I'm more of a person pleaser, or because of all my experience in sales, customer service jobs, I think that's where that's my strongest suit when it comes to this game, or when it comes to this community, especially when it comes to not only opening up UPW, getting it started, getting the foundation laid, basically carrying UPW for the first 5.5 months.
mm-hmm.
And then now opening up another new promo group. Yes, I know it's a new Fed. Oh no, what's the world going to do about it? It's only like the billionth one. But, just knowing how to deal with people, knowing how to talk to them, and basically having that leadership that an EFED needs,
Mm-hmm.
basically knowing who to have in your EFED and who not to have in your EFED. Like I picked this up from Matt. Notice how we talk about Matt a lot in this,
Mm-hmm.
because Matt's almost been like my mentor. Matt has been basically my mentor for the past year, not only in the EFED world, but in my personal life. In the EFED world, Triple M, he's the one that helped get me to where I am with my Double M character. I've won a few titles as Double M. I won multiple titles as Mike Valentine. So basically, for anybody that watches this, or that's watching this right now, and you're just getting into promo wrestling, or you're thinking about it, if you're in my case, you're like a year in, look to those people that have been in this longer. Glean some information off of them, glean as much stuff as you can, and take advantage of that knowledge. It may just be putting a camera in front of your face. But if you're good, like Brett Lickey when it comes to Raccoon Boy, hey, gotta stroke the ego a little bit.
Hey,
But
there we go. I love it.
But when you have your franchise/disenfranchises, your Lorraine Carter, you're gonna go places.
Mhm.
Because if it weren't for Matt and Triple M, I would not be as successful. I probably wouldn't be in the place that I am in life. I wouldn't be the more mature adult that I am right now if I didn't have those small group of people in my life.
Well, that has to be one of the, again, I love hearing that. That's part of what this podcast is about, is how promo wrestling can shape your outside life. Whereas, you've had Minnick kind of help mentor you in the real life, or, you kind of speak with him. Mullins has taught me JavaScript. We communicate via messenger chat. He taught me how to code JavaScript. So he's been a huge no, that's a lie. Anyways, but we can see how, like, these lessons, like, how you have to look at that. And if you're going to take anything away from promo wrestling, you could take away a lot of negatives, and that has to be one of the best things in the world, a real life camaraderie from this Facebook group, or these Facebook groups, I should say. Right.
Because now, like, countless hours have been spent between me, Lorraine Carter, Carl Coles, Triple M. I even talked to Terry Aikman a lot. I know he's not too active in EFEDs right now, but all of them are really great people, good guys to get to know, people that I'm proud to call brothers of mine.
So, well, before like I said, love hearing that, and I want to get into the future of your career, but before that, we have to address that. It's a big central pressing issue. It's massive. I think we can talk about it now that we see the growth, and there's sort of this happiness that's come out of, your reunification with these guys and your brotherhood there. But what about the double M gimmick? Are you going to take Mullins to court over this gimmick?
Oh, we already did. I already buried him for that, so I mean.
I mean, hold on. Mine was going to be completely different. It was not you took it the wrong way.
No, I did not. Mullins, I did not. The thing is, when you associate the name Double M, you think of Michael Glasenapp. You don't think of Matt Mullins. That's the thing, dude.
I can't help it. I got two M's in my name. So it's like Matt Minnick. He also got two M's in his name.
But you don't see him calling himself Double M. He's the disenfranchised one. The rip-off Broken Hearted.
Yeah.
Oops, that slipped out my bad.
Double M, because I just wanted to shorten my name, calling myself Two Man, 2M, or, you see how stupid that would have been easy.
Hey, the game that is EFED wrestling, hardly anything is original nowadays.
Mullins,
exactly.
Let's just rip everything off.
They dropped it, too.
Please be Two Man, because it could be like, you could do it like the number 2, but you could also be TO, like, what does it mean to man? And then you could have Two Man, and then you could please.
Stupid.
No.
Stupid. It didn't make sense.
Well,
but I quickly dropped the gimmick. I went back to the Punisher, and that gimmick is honestly getting boring. I just wanted to try something different.
But hey, at least isn't it PWA where you're doing like the 7-man gimmick thing?
Yeah, but I'm not. It's complicated because I really don't know where to fucking go with it.
Hey man, there are a lot of great things in the PWA chat.
Mullins, you can be whatever you want to be, and there's a lot of 7 puns. I'm sure Glasenapp will tell us one.
Hey, instead of the 10 count, you go for you can only get counted out as 7. Okay?
Yeah, I know, and I'm thinking about that. I'm still, trying to figure out where the fuck to go with this gimmick.
If you could get in touch with Shanti, just instead of like the perfect 10 that Ty Dillinger has, where it just comes out in 10, just have a flashing 7.
Yes.
Hey man, the cheesier the better.
Mullins, I think you have to consider this, please.
Because look because I associate that with my Double M character. I do the stupidest things in this eFed game. I prance around my living room singing Ring Around the Rosie in a PWS tournament.
That's the thing. I don't really have enough privacy in my fucking house to do shit, to do too much.
Bullshit. You have sat in front of that camera wearing a cane mask, dangling handcuffs.
Yeah, in my room.
Well,
you
there you
don't see me
go.
wearing that mask
There you
anywhere
go.
else
Just
besides
move
the
your
house.
bed and just prance around your room singing Ring Around the Rosie.
I'm not even going to say. I was about to sing a... Oh, never mind. It was going to be awful, so I'm not even going to get into that. It was going to be San Pedro, but I was going to change it with 7. We're not getting into that. But Mullins, please consider it. But, so, okay, so Mullins isn't going to steal your gimmick or whatever. I don't know what
the gimmick name.
The gimmick name.
That was the thing that I was most concerned about. I knew he wasn't going to be wearing this luchador mask. I knew he wasn't going to have a black bed sheet behind him. I knew he wasn't going to wear a black hoodie. But because he was trying to use the Double M name, I was not gonna allow it.
So Mullins isn't gonna do that, I don't think. Mullins is gonna, do the 7M or something. I don't know what it'll be. It'll be interesting to find out, Mullins, won't it be?
To be continued.
I've already been using it. If you pay attention.
No, but the future of it, it'd be interesting to see how you evolve.
It may be a complete bust.
Well, maybe it will be, but we're gonna find out either way. But let's get back. Let's talk about the future now. What does the future hold for you? You seem like you're back. Not seem. You've told us you're back in a good spot, so you've probably got pretty good footing going forward.
Right. Right now, my main focus for the past couple weeks, because I wasn't booked in PWA last week, and I wasn't booked for their free preview from this past weekend. I got to talk to Joshua McClain, but that's beside the point.
There was an open battle royal for Friday Night Future Shot, where the winner of the battle royal gets a shot at the television title.
Well, dang.
Missed out. But other than that,
I've been focusing more on trying to recruit people for our new Fed, Extreme Radical Promo Federation. Try saying that 10 times fast. And so right now we actually got a good solid list of about almost 20 people. Let's see, and I want to take what I had in UPW at the very start, because almost all those same people that I started with in UPW are there at the start of Extreme Radical Promo Federation. We have a lot of talent in there that you can't find anywhere else, because the Radicals will only promo basically in one spot, minus Lorraine Carter, Shooter J, possibly, and the Ohio boys, Zach Rainwater, Josh Stevenson. I even saw Dan Colton promoing in a WKP several months back. But now I'm not going to say they're going to be exclusive, but they might be. Okay. I can't speak on their behalf. But, my goal this year is to definitely win more championships, because I've taken too much time off. I haven't been consistent enough when it comes to doing promos to win more championships. I think last year, or my first year, I won probably 8 or 9, but they were all kind of like low card to mid card type titles. And so my goal is to try to elevate myself into more that main event, and to go after like more world titles than just the one that I have notched under my belt.
So where are you looking to do that? Do you have any feds in mind? You're back in UPW, correct?
Correct. I'm going to be on a Thursday Night Thunderdome right under Anthony McFly. Onions, Stinky Pinky, if you don't know who that is. Let's see. And then I'm going to be sticking with PWA, because I personally love working with Joshua McClain in there. He gives me really great advice. He's helped me a lot. Like my scores in there every week have gradually gotten better. So, I don't know how long Joshua McClain's been doing this. Maybe 2 years.
I think
correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's even longer. I've spoken with him. That guy has he has a pretty deep history in promo wrestling and all sorts of things. He's got a very well, and he's unique in the fact that he's got his whole family in it. So the guy is just totally unique. But if you're looking for a guy for advice and to, kind of learn from my early impressions, he's a guy to go to.
Right. And so, my goal is to win the PWA World Heavyweight Championship. With me being back in UPW, I haven't been so active in there for a few months. So I don't know. I don't really know what they've changed, what they kept. Because when I was in there, they still had their world championship and they still had the UPW championship. So I don't know if, from what I hear, they basically took just the name of their shows and made their main titles the world championship and retired the world and the UPW championship. To my knowledge, I think that's what they did. So my goal is to be like the Thursday night Thunderdome champion.
So you're aiming at the top.
Because,
you're not and it's good to have goals like that. It's good to set yourself and have a general idea once you're an established competitor of what you want to do. Because I think, when you become established and you become, you've been doing it long enough, you can kind of get lost in that flux zone, right? Where you don't really set a path, you don't really set a goal. You're just kind of promoting week in, week out.
Yeah.
And nothing's really happening. So I'm glad to hear that you have some big goals and some big goals in mind.
Right. Because for me, I don't try to promo in every place that I'm in. I feel like that's where Lorraine Carter has gotten a bigger edge on me. He's in these multiple E-Feds from WKP to PWA, UPW, FPW, PPF. He's giving himself more opportunities. But for me, I feel like if I were to do like 5 E-Feds at one time, I would run out of stuff to say. I would run out of stuff to say in my promos, and I feel like I would get burned out again like I did back in like October, November timeframe of last year.
I think it's easy for that to happen. Lots of people, I think there's a certain type of person who can go into 5-6 feds and be successful. But I'm with you. I'm with you in the exact same way. I can't be in too many, otherwise it's easy to get burnt out. I think Mullins learned the same lesson, getting burnt out. And so it's cool that, again, that experience, that lesson learned, that time out, that you get to know that it's better for your character to almost keep it restricted, put the limitations on.
Right, and it also makes it to where, hey, I hear Brett Lickey is only doing promos, I assume, in UPW right now.
I do CPW. I got a feud with them, and PWA I started in. So UPW, I do Raccoon Boy. I have a different sort of.
You have your different gimmicks for different feds.
Exactly. I couldn't be just me in every single fed. And I'm fighting in WPW at the upcoming, it's the 2-year anniversary show, but that'll be me. But it's, just a one. So it's, you kind of, you balance it out.
Right. And I think that's what I think by limiting yourself makes you even a bigger name, because, hey, I want to go to UPW to face Raccoon Boy, because he's one of the best. Or let's say somebody, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but, hey, I want to go face Mike Valentine over in PWA. Or I'm going to be using my Double M character for UPW. That way, like you, I can have 2 different places, and 2 different places I can improve on both of my characters. Because I've already won a world title as Double M. So I guess this year is the year to try to make Mike Valentine a world champion somewhere.
Well, and I'm sure it'll be an interesting journey, because you got to make those steps, and it'll be an interesting journey to see, how you kind of bring that other character up to that level. And you kind of learn. I've found it the same way. Like, there are things I can do as me that I just simply cannot do as Raccoon Boy. I try it, it doesn't work, and vice
Right.
versa. And I'm sure,
Right. You see,
I'm
for me,
sure.
I can't go to that place as Mike Valentine that I do with Double M.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Valentine is this flamboyant, pompous, arrogant douchebag,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Double M is like this crazy lunatic psychomaniac that lives in the suicide forest, that runs around in the wind caverns.
It's completely different, completely
Right.
different. And so, how do you balance it? How do you keep that fresh? And hey, talk about his name's been mentioned already, but when we talk about guys like Matt Minnick with franchise disenfranchise, uh,
Although I will give him
there
a
you go.
shout out. I did see a lot. I did see some of his work in UPW when he would go like franchise would come out. He transitioned into disenfranchised just to reemerge as the franchise.
Yeah.
And my plan is to try to, like, let's say for if I ever do PWS tournaments, I've already shot a promo this way and it's in my archives, but to kind of intertwine my characters where one scene you see Mike Valentine and then it jumps to Double M doing something crazy and psychotic. Jumps to Mike Valentine who's still carrying on the story. So, kind of
Yeah.
try to, I guess, change the way the game is played because I have never seen people do that before. I know Joshua McClain has multiple characters. Eric Jesse has multiple characters. Besides me, I think the only person I've seen do that in a promo is Matt Minnick.
I think it's something cool to try. I think you should try it. I think that, and again, it forces your hand creatively, and it
Right.
forces everything because when you start doing things like that aren't on the norm, everyone else has to up their game. So when you sort
Right.
of innovate that, you're doing a good thing for the business, and it would just be cool to see. I
Yeah.
think you should
Yeah.
definitely.
And I've heard, I might be wrong about this, but isn't Eric Jesse like the originator of like having multiple gimmicks? Wasn't he like one of the first ever to do it?
In this modern wing of promo wrestling, he definitely brought in a different persona early on. But you know who actually might be one of the first is Mullins. It didn't take you long to switch between having
Yeah.
gimmicks.
Well, when I first started out, I didn't really have a gimmick, and then I think one of my first gimmicks was that Mullins Express.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking gimmicks that anyone could do in the EFED world.
The what?
Mullins Express.
Like the movie Polar Express?
No, not really. It was just something random I created, like just
It was
like
a gimmick
okay.
based on trains.
It was stupid. It was
But so maybe
worst
not the
gimmick
best gimmick.
ever.
Maybe not the
Hey,
best
I've had
gimmick.
some pretty crappy gimmicks and when I first started.
But
This
early
was
on, yeah, you
like
stumped me there.
when I first started, this one of my first ever promos that I shot in UPW. I started calling myself New York Mike. I wore my same Yankees shirt. I wore a Yankees cap. I even had a pair of matching shorts. And so I would try to talk with this New York accent, and it just wasn't working.
New
And
York
then,
Mike.
right, hardly anybody knows that. If you want to see the early stages of my EFED career, gander over to the Global Promo Federation. We don't do promos there anymore because of the new group, but you'll find a lot of interesting stuff at the early stages of UPW.
Man,
Like
that's
we had 2 funerals. We didn't have karaoke stuff, which I'm kind of disappointed in. But you'll just find like a lot of people that were good, but they didn't stay in long enough.
They just and did they like leave completely? Like
Yeah.
promo wrestling.
Forever, yeah.
That's a shame. That does. I always hate when you see that these people that sort of
Right.
skim in, and then
They basically do it just because, oh, it's a cool thing to do, and then when it's not cool anymore, they kind of like being a LeBron James fan. Shots fired.
Well, them and the Warriors. There's a lot of bandwagon fans.
Oh
for
man,
both
don't
of
get
them.
me started on the Cavaliers and the Warriors. Don't get me started.
Yeah,
This is about promo wrestling.
yeah. That NBA Finals. Well, predictable. Anyways,
What's your prediction though? Mine. This is not E-Fed related, but what's your prediction?
I still want the Cavs to win because I'll say it's gonna go to 7 again for sure. Let's say Cavs in 7.
Let's see. I'm predicting Warriors in 5.
Oh wow, you think it's not even gonna be close?
Kevin Durant is a good. I feel like he's capable of guarding LeBron, and so both LeBron and KD are gonna have a great game, but Kyrie's just he's not there all the time, and I think Kevin Love, he's hot, but not hot enough to beat the Warriors, and Klay Thompson's been non-existent for the Warriors this year. And so I think with this break, I guess, that he's had, I think he goes off in the finals.
Well, we'll see. It'll probably be as predictable as it is. It'll probably be a good series. Mullins, who do you predict? Oh, and before you give your answer, little known fact: Mullins actually played amateur basketball in high school. You might not know it to look at him, but Mullins is 7 foot tall, and he knows how to slam dunk a basketball. And
Dang,
I do not. I never played any sports in high school. I was never on any team.
Mullins, you
See,
told
that people denial is the first step. That is true.
No, I'm dead serious. I never played any sports on any major sports team.
You told me that you used to dunk on fools. You're like, oh, I dunked on fools all the time. You're lying.
I did not.
Mullins, you did.
Where you come up with this crap?
He's Brett Licky. He comes up with on top of his head.
Well, Mullins, I think maybe that could be a new gimmick for you, and I'd love to have you try it out somewhere. Where basketball player Mullins, Dennis Mullins Rodman, something. You buy yourself a little basketball from Walmart, and you made a gimmick based on train puns. I'm sure you could get a lot more out of basketball puns. Consider
the
it, Mullins.
fact that Mullins had a train gimmick makes me want to go back and just see what he had to do with that gimmick.
Oh, you got to find those promos.
Maybe I could probably pull it up. And
bump it.
Post it.
Bump it. And bump Shady's promo too, where he talks about knocking the Mullins Express off with his wang.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard
and that's what made me killed. It was Shady's promo what made me kill that gimmick. Instantly killed it. Never did it again.
Yeah, I've seen some previous promos of people from before I got into promo wrestling. Mm-hmm. What were y'all thinking back in the day? Like I saw one guy getting a blowjob. I saw a video of Eric Jesse humping a teddy bear.
Oh yeah, that one.
I saw a picture of Thomas Austin taking a crap.
Yeah, so the thing is, Paul put it good last week, or not last week, on Sunday, when he said, when we started, we really had no idea what we were doing. And there was a lot of really good early stuff, and there's a lot of stuff that if you went back and watched it today, it wouldn't hold up at all. The Eric Jesse humping a teddy bear video was actually hilarious, though, because that was supposed to be someone's mom. That was legitimately a very funny promo. Mm-hmm. Crude as it was, I laughed my ass off at it, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
I have the video still.
it's great. I mean, I had to laugh at it. But, there was all sorts of stuff, that would come and go that you just look at and go, good Lord, what are we thinking? But That's why we practice. That's why we get better. We're still doing some ridiculous stuff here and there. I don't know if it's really
like I don't get how does I want to get in the mind of Brett Lickey. How do you think of the stuff that you do for your promos? Like sitting in front of a computer holding a little bag of spaghetti noodles? Where does that come from?
I'm a big fan of Tim and Eric because we think along the same lines in terms of just, I don't know. I don't even like that. It just comes. I don't even think about it. It just, I grab it and it goes. So spaghetti law,
Right.
if people don't know, I practice in spaghetti law. I'm a spaghetti lawyer. You can figure out what that is.
Right. I will say the best thing that I've ever seen in a promo is the Raccoon Boy Fresh Prince of Bel-Air rap. That's the best thing I've ever seen somebody do.
Oh, that's in TOPW.
Yes, that's gold.
Yeah, that was the one I showed to my friends and family. That was like how they knew I was in promo wrestling because I was like, okay,
Right.
check this out. That was, oh man, ridiculous.
See, for me, I keep my promos very quiet. I'll stay up like till 2 a.m. just to make sure that nobody can hear me. That way, I know everybody's asleep, and I'll cut my promos at like 2 a.m.
Oh wow. So we talked about that in our last podcast. So with promo wrestling, clearly, I mean, there is a stigma, but like, what would you do if you're like someone in your family or friend like found out you were promoing? How would you like? What would you tell them the truth? Paul had told his friends he was training wrestling or something along those lines. What would you do?
I don't know. I always tell whenever my mom asks, "Hey, what are you doing in your room?" Oh, I sit down and I do videos.
Good enough. That's
because that's really what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I do sometimes I do inspirational videos. I'll sit down, I'll play my guitar for a video. Because I actually do some music outside of this. I do different photography stuff outside of promoing because I'm not a hermit. I actually do get outside in the world.
So, well, let's talk about that. We're getting close to the end of our interview, but maybe we could conclude it with that. We've seen you kind of travel through and you've had the personal life brought in and intertwined, lessons learned. We're back on track. Now you're in a real great opportunity to competitively fulfill those desires. But this is something I've asked on the show before. With promo wrestling, what do you think you get the most out of it? You getting competitiveness, creativity, community, all three. As you stand in your career today, which one of those C's immediately jumps to your mind?
Most definitely the community. I've made so many friendships. Like I have an older brother that really hasn't been in my life at all. And so I like with those same guys, Carl, Lorraine, Triple M, and Matt, we're all a tight knit family. Yes, we fight like a family. We have beef, but when we settled it out, we all realized, hey, through thick and thin, through better and for worse, we can't live without each other. We're brothers, and I guess what keeps me so tightly knit to them is because they seem like those older brothers that I've always wanted in my life. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's deep. That's
Right.
and it's a very real thing. That is a very real, tangible effect from promo wrestling, and I think that's pretty damn outstanding that you can meet someone hundreds, thousands of miles away, and multiple people, and they have that sort of effect. So, well, man, that's fantastic. I want to thank you on the show. Thank you. But before we do that, Mullins, do you have anything else to add?
Glasenapp, the future shock chat just wants to tell you a bunch of stuff. I'm not even going to do
Oh
it.
man, here we go. Oh man.
What's the show? Or what's the questions, I should say? Do you have one? Can you list one, Mullins?
What?
From the chat, can you list one of the things they're trying to say, or is it all just too unprofessional?
Let me see. Let me see. Cody Hunter says, told me to tell Michael to go to hell. Will McClain told me to tell him.
Hey man, I'm a Jesus freak. I'm going straight up.
Jeez.
Hey,
well, that's where we'll end that.
Yeah. Yeah, Mullins, do you have like any professional bone in your body?
Mullins, yes, exactly. Do you not understand what it means when I say professional? God damn it. Anyways.
But hey, worse things have been said in promos, am I right?
Exactly. But hey, and I think you've showed us a lot of and what we can learn from promo wrestling, what we can take away, where we can grow. Like I said, you've really had. Thank you for being so honest. Thank you for being so truthful about your story, and really thank you for telling that. You didn't have that's something maybe not a lot of people would be willing to share, but I think that's really important for people to know, especially if they're coming into promo wrestling or if they're they've been in a while. But regardless of how long they've been in, it's important to know those stories of success. And hey, you stand on some good solid ground now. Hopefully you find some success, some more success, those big goals. Everyone should be able to achieve what they want to in promo wrestling. So thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you having me on.
No worries. So, and like I said, give us the name of your Fed one more time, where we can find it. And
well, of course, you can find it on Facebook. It's called Extreme Radical Promo Federation. Lorraine is the head owner. He was voted as the owner and president of the group. I am the co-owner and vice president of the group. But there's really no rank structure in our admin team because I take this away from Matt. He basically just gives a direction to his admin team, and he just lets them do what they do. And that's what my intentions are, especially with Lorraine. He and I talk a lot, be like, hey, who can we bring in? How can we bring him in? So this coming Monday, we're actually going to be releasing our first card. We have Terry Aikman doing our booking. I personally chose Terry just because he has become a close friend of mine over the past several months. And so he's a heck of a booker, has a lot of creative juices flowing in his brain because he's a freaking truck driver. So all he does is just sit around and have time to think to himself. Not slandering him, but it's true.
Yeah. Well, it's time to reflect.
Right. So and then hopefully within the next few months, we're going to be having, actually, I won't reveal all of our secrets, but for our first FPV, I'm personally aiming for the end of June. Our first ever pay-per-view, we will be having like a Money in the Bank type of match, but instead of just the World Heavyweight Championship contract, we're going to be having our 3 contracts up for grabs, for all 3 of our titles.
Wow. So big things happening. Check it out. Sounds like you want the best. You got a right idea for what you want and how you need to build your creative, and you're learning from some of the best people to learn from. So I wish you the best success with your Fed. And once again, thanks for joining us. We'll have to have you on again in the future sometime.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to it. That's been a lot of fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Promo Wrestling Pod, episode number 6. Tomorrow night, tentative right now, but it's looking like it may happen. We're going to have Eric Jesse on, and we'll also have a small celebration because it's the 7th episode, so we'll celebrate the 7th episode for the Sultan of 7, Matthew 7 Mullins.
Right.
Mullins, do you have anything to say to our loyal and lovely fans?
Yes, thank you for the support.
7. There you go, Mullins. He brought his belt back. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
And thank you, Michael. And we'll talk to you next day.